Becca, and thank you to everybody for making this happen, because it is special. And I just got here about 6 months ago from New York. We host a lot with Industrious around the country. And while I want to learn about this market as I'm making it my home, I know many of you who are watching are considering making this your home, investing here. Your business partners are asking about this market. So that's what we're doing here. My curiosity is going to be your way to learn about what's going on here. So with that, I'm going to ask each of you to give a brief introduction of who you are, and then we're going to get started.
I'm Keith James. I have the pleasure of serving as mayor of West Palm Beach. I've just completed my first term of 4 years, was reelected without opposition to a second term of 4 years. Get sworn in on next week. And I'm happy to be in this position during this very interesting but momentous time in our city's history.
I'm Kylie Van Buren. I'm the Director of Real Estate Transactions at Industrious, and I was a part of creating this location here at West Palm Beach, and have focused on growth for our real estate team across North America. So really excited to be here and be in our beautiful space today.
Great. And Jordan Rathlev with the related companies. I'm our Senior Vice President of Development, leading our office initiatives here at West Palm Beach. I can say 3 years ago, we didn't own one office square foot in the city. Today, we own about 1.6 million square feet, and we have plans for another 1.5, 1.6 million square feet. So excited to be part of this growth story in the city.
It's incredible. These are the people who are building this market, truly. So I want to, with that, it's a perfect dovetail into how do we get to this current state of West Palm Beach? What are the factors? What are those major contributions from your point of view?
Well, I think that, the city was very conscious when COVID hit to make sure that we kept what I like to say, we kept the doors of the city open. And I think we created a welcoming environment for businesses. And that was important. We certainly wanted to make sure that our small businesses, our restaurants, clubs, and other entertainment venues felt that they had an opportunity to continue their businesses. But we continue to process building permits. We continue to have people come in and do business with the city. That was very important to me, that the city itself remained open for business. And I think that made a statement to the private sector, that perhaps we were somebody that they could do business with even in the midst of COVID. So I think that was a start.
No, I would just echo that. Obviously, Related has been in this market for over 20 years. That was really done remotely for a good portion of that. And as the mayor mentioned, it was a welcome business, very pro-growth, pro-development, pro-business mentality that you didn't find in a lot of parts of the country at that time. And Related, having a presence here, was able to capitalize on that, but it wouldn't have been possible without the local environment, and was forward-thinking in terms of not what's happening in the pandemic in 1 or 2 years, but the next 5 to 10. And I don't think you saw that from a lot of municipalities around the country at that time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think for us, we're new to the market here. We're in our first West Palm Beach location. We've been open for about 3 months. We got the opportunity to partner with Related and be their flex partner of choice here. And we really want to be where our members are. And our members were here because they had moved here or they were here already and they were a part of this amazing community. And it was so vibrant that we thought we could be a addition to that, and create an opportunity for some of the small and medium-sized businesses to have space and to get to really participate in all.
Without question, when I found out you guys were here, I knew I had to come right away and see the space. And now look at us now. What you guys are doing here, and I could see it from a mile away as soon as I got here. You guys are what I call placemaking. Some of you guys call it city building. I know there's some different phrases. But the definition I have here is a people-centered approach to the planning process, design, and management of public spaces. Put simply, it makes people feel good about where they live, work, and play. So what are the contributing factors to making people feel good about living, working, and having their lives here?
Well, I think an essential component of placemaking is doing exactly that, creating spaces, places where people want to be, where they want to congregate. Rosemary Square, which Related founded years ago, is a prime example of that. But they did a significant, even pre-COVID, they did a significant reboot. What used to be City Place became Rosemary Square, now Lee Square. But the emphasis there, correct me if I'm wrong, Jordan, was just to make it a place where people wanted to congregate. And we have other places, other spaces like that in our city. We have a tremendous waterfront, which is right a little bit north of us, which again, then it's open. We have different events there. We have a wonderful weed market on Saturdays, but it's a space that was created for the purpose of bringing people together. And I think that's part of our charm, is that we have different pockets around the city where there are just spaces for people to congregate.
Yeah, different flavors of like different activities, different communities. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think what the mayor hit on is spot on. We do it around the country, this vision of placemaking, but it's very people-centric. So where the building hits the road, not necessarily looking at the building itself, but really focusing on the pedestrian experience. So it's a place where people want to enjoy the outdoors, take advantage of the open space, and not be inside a building all the time. And we'll credit the city. I mean, years ago, before we redeveloped Rosemary Square, the city hired a public realm consultant, Gail, out of Copenhagen. And we saw a presentation where the city was working on how do they redefine the public spaces in the downtown. And we engaged them to reimagine the square near what it's a curved street, very lush and landscaped, and really pedestrian focused. And that's where we start up from this notion of round up and then the city or people first developments. And it was really started 4 or 5 years here in West Palm, but we've done it in all our projects now with Hudson Yards in New York, in Detroit, around the country, and it's really a people kind of focused centered process that starts it.
It's interesting that you bring up Hudson Yards because when my first experiences down here, you have the Soul Cycle-esque spinning classes outside in the square, you have the restaurants filling over, you have the kids running through the sprinklers, and it's really, there's life. And it very much felt like that central Hudson Yards kind of feeling. It's like, wow. And so it's interesting that you bring up Hudson Yards specifically, and I feel that when I'm here. Kylie, did you want to talk about KCP?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's something really special when you have stakeholders who are long-term invested in the community, and you see that from Related, and you see that from the city. And so West Palm Beach over the past decade has become so vibrant, and there's so much that's already here, and then now there's even more coming. And I think that's so huge because you really get that energy, and I think it's cool people from different areas of the country who now see that energy, who see the business-friendly environment, who want to be here consistently. And so,
yeah, and I wanted to ask Mayor James, what does it mean to have companies like Industrious and Related have global portfolios? I mean, really significant companies coming here and making strategic partnerships like this.
Well, it's amazing. It's very gratifying to me as mayor. But I have made it very clear when I talk to businesses, and I've gone on a number of recruiting trips around the country, businesses that are thinking about moving here to West Palm Beach. My ask is, I'm not interested in just businesses coming here and building nice buildings. Beautiful buildings are great. I want partners that will help us build a community. And not only, and my vision that I've articulated, even when I was campaigning for mayor pre-COVID, was I want to make West Palm Beach a community of opportunity for all. And so when I have partners like Related, they seem to get it. And other companies that are coming here as well, there seems to be an energy, a true intentionality of not only moving their business here or locating a branch of their business here, but really becoming part of the West Palm Beach community, building a community.
I mean, just to echo on that, I think a big part of our focus, and maybe the mayor will say, occupies too much at this time with us, but we probably spent half our time courting healthcare systems, schools, universities, working on mobility and traffic. Because again, New York has this concept of city building doesn't end with a building. It's the holistic approach that if a company wants to here to get me answer those questions for them and how to do that in a comprehensive way with the public-private partnership. It's not something the city can solve alone. It's not something the county can solve alone. And then we ask for buy-in from the tenants. So when they come to the market, as the mayor was saying, you say, look, you're going to be part of this community. You can't differentiate about us. You have to invest some way in the community, whether it's volunteering or some participation, outside of your office. And we get a lot of buy-in. I think it's resonated in a big way with a lot of the larger corporations, where they ask that of an employee anyway. So this isn't just an investment in your space, it's an investment in your
That's incredible. To be honest, I don't know how many times I've heard that from the development side. And I think it's because you guys have a unique mix of intentionality and placemaking here, and everybody feels that opportunity. I think this particular partnership between Industrious and Related really emphasizes how much you guys are invested in companies really coming here, but staying here and growing here, right? Because we do know that, office is evolving and a hybrid work model is more and more prevalent. It's something people are asking for more and more. So I think it's very for strategic by Related to have a basic partner like Industrious, but also you guys have a recipe for doing that, like helping people come here, build here.
Yeah, we do. It's interesting. When we kind of look at a regional network holistically, we kind of sometimes we talk about it as if it's like cell phone towers. You have to have the right coverage within the region to give our members the ability to move around. So if you live in West Palm, but your headquarters is down in Brickell, you might want an office up here because 2 days a week you don't want to work from home and you don't want to commute and deal with the traffic. You want to be here. And that's such a big part of it. And then when we look at West Palm in particular, it's not just about the region. It's really, there's a new connectivity between West Palm and our New York locations in particular. So we have members who are here, who some of them have offices here and also offices with us in New York. Some of them have moved here full time. Some of them are splitting their time. And that's such a big part of where we've been successful in this location specifically, just because it takes from this sort of region and expands it a lot larger in our network.
It's very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, to leverage off that. I mean, I think we look at the partnership with Industrious, I think, through two lenses. One, they help incubate companies that want to grow here. There's no question about that. If we see a need to have the working so they can help companies whether grow, make an initial footprint here, but expand long term. But it's also, I think, we have very like-minded cultures in the sense that, to your point, offices evolve, right? And the new concept of lifestyle office is what we as Related sees the evolution of the business, and that means offering highly amenitized, newly designed, best-in-class buildings, but also amenities that are not necessarily just the ones you could touch, a gym or a conference center, but the special events, the special programming, the special unique experiences that we as a landlord can offer, particularly at West Palm where we have such a presence. But it's a mentality that Industrious operates with all of their members as well. So the programming that they have or the amenities that they offer, but they do this for other landlords around the country where they offer that lifestyle component. And we see that's the trend of where office is going. Why you give employers a reason to tell your employee, you got to get back to the office, but give them a reason to do so.
Right.
The old building's not the way to do it today. It's kind of the new future of what a building looks like and then what you offer amenity-based outside of the traditional.
Yeah, what is the program at that building? And now beyond that, what is the program of the city to support that building? I mean, we talk about that a lot on the multifamily side of the industry where you create stickiness through knowing a neighbor. Or if you know two neighbors, the stats go up with the stickiness of that prospective tenant or homeowner, right? So it's no different in the office sector, and I think we're catching up to that. And it's amazing to have such a community to support that as well.
Yeah, we've been really good partners with Related too because it fits together really well. We try and put our locations in an area that fits the niches of the community holistically and of the landlords as well, so that we're an amenity to the building and we're part of what attracts people not just to the building but to like the larger.
Absolutely. And I want to talk about back to the placemaking a little bit and the walkability, right? And the transportation is really, really big. So I do want to dive into transportation. And I would love for Mayor James to kick us off, a little better person to talk about, what's here now, what's coming.
Well, I think, and this is an issue that we have been addressing for a number of years, and particularly in Florida, it really was a change in approach. The issue now is how do we move people, and not just cars. Florida has been very car-centric. And so to change the paradigm of a city, and you talk about moving mobility or transportation is not building bigger, wider roads. We really have to be intentional about how can we better move people around our particular city. So that includes better bike paths. And people talk about bikes, at least in a city that is as diverse as ours. Bicycles are a tremendous primary means of transportation for many people. To move back and forth. So it's really an equity issue as well. So to have better bike paths, and to even in the downtown area where you're trying to make sure that you have transportation options, whether it's our trolleys, whether it's our electric vehicles that move people around. So we were very intentional, even pre-COVID, well before COVID. We had a mobility plan that was adopted so that we could look at how we could build a better mobility infrastructure throughout our city, not just bigger and the wider roads, but making it more pedestrian friendly and in areas where it's more dense. So, but we were, and I'm proud to say, I was on the commission then, but we tried to address these issues head on and be very proactive about them, including mobility, well before COVID. So I think we were uniquely positioned to experience this transformational growth that we are now.
Kylie, I know as the director of real estate transactions for Industrious, a massive part of your job is site selection. So how much does transportation, mobility, walkability impact your decision making? And then what are some of the other factors that helped you choose this city?
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of southeastern cities, they've traditionally been car-heavy markets, so parking has been a big part of that. We have case studies of locations that have done really well and gotten up to 70% occupied and then got stuck, not because the demand wasn't there, but because the parking wasn't there. And then when we've been able with our landlord partners, part of the benefits of working in the partnership agreement is that landlord partners are incentivized to help work with us on that and gotten more parking. We shot up to 95% occupancy very, very quickly. So parking continues to be a part of this. It's something Jordan and I talked about when we were working out the deal here. But I think for this location too, one of the great things is this is really with the light rail, it's become such a great public transportation supported city. And so we're really seeing members take the Bright Line and come in and do that. And that's going to open it up so much for us. And then in terms of walkability, the access to food and beverage and the quality retail, that's such a big part of what makes our members' experience really great on a day-to-day basis. They don't mind commuting to the office, but they like to be able to then walk to get a sandwich. They don't want to get back in the car during the day. So that's really what we're thinking a lot about that as we sort of focus on the way people want to be back in offices as they return to office.
Right. And Jordan, how about you in terms of location? What are the things that you were looking at when you're choosing to invest, develop infrastructure?
I mean, outside of great political leadership was always top of the list.
Like that.
I think, obviously you look at the macro trend, right? What makes sense from a job growth, a population growth, kind of those key metrics. But then as you boil it down, you want various entries. So when we look at West Palm Beach, where we focus between the two bridges, the Intercoastal and the Lake or 95, it's a very, defined zone that has limited long-term opportunity. So identifying the best sites and the best location, having the right infrastructure from a mobility and transportation perspective, and then having the employee base there that makes sense long-term for the types of product that we're looking to develop. And I think, West Palm, I think we will easily admit we were probably 15 years too early here. This was a very heavily tourism and hospitality-driven market, and that has evolved over the last 15, 20 years, particularly accelerated over the last 3. So I think, timing obviously has a piece to do with it, but the infrastructure, the location, the local environment, all kidding aside, is extremely important with forward-thinking leaders. And then having a lifestyle component, which is now seems to be the biggest draw for why companies are choosing locations, because the employees want a place to live. It used to be you had to be in New York or Los Angeles, Chicago, because that's where the only place these top-tier firms were. But they'd expanded because the employees want to be elsewhere. So lifestyle has become a huge piece of why West Palm Beach, why South Florida in general.
Well, it's interesting because I do want to talk about talent and attracting people to this market. And, some developers take a, build it and they will come approach, but you guys are really developing millions of square feet. But you're igniting a whole community of people who will live, work, and then play here. And of course, in your buildings, what are the strategies that you guys are employing to make that happen to the tracts?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're differentiated in 2 ways. One, we like to hold assets for long term. So it's not get into market, build it, flip it, and sell it.
Right.
It's a long-term investment, and that takes time.
Sure.
Luckily and fortunately for us, to be at the bones of a 30-acre project here. It's 25 years old at this point in City Place. So that helped, right? I mean, that set the infrastructure and the ability to grow ultimately. But I think, what we're doing around the country, this concept of lifestyle office revolves around dynamic 24/7 urban environments. And we're in a unique position in Palm Beach County where we have a 30-acre environment that we control, and we have our own landscape and our own security. We have a curated environment that offers that 24/7 lifestyle that if you hear how they're building in another city, you can't offer that. You're in the city, has different ownerships, it's fragmented, but here in West Palm, we have that environment, plus the advantage of the balance of the city that's within 5 or 10 minute walks of the downtown to the waterfront Clematis, or the arts and culture that are 2 minutes away with the North and the Crafts. There's all these components that create this dynamic urban environment that we fortunately, again, had a location in the heart of it for the last 25 years.
Well, I think one of the things that was so amazing to me as I'm first starting to live here and understand not just this market, but the many markets that are emerging, down the coast of South Florida, and whether they've been there and they're building or, it's amazing to me how much people travel for business here, how much people, whether they live here or they live, Miami, on the other coast, they're willing to come here for business. And it's I think it's so amazing to me. From New York City, lived there for a very long time. I've lived in Boston. I've lived in many, large central business districts. When you live there, it's very uncommon for people to say, I'm going to go to Long Island for a meeting. I'm from Manhattan. No, you go to Manhattan for the meeting. It's very uncommon. So I was so surprised how much, and we have people here from Miami today who came for, to see this panel, and I think it's so incredible. And it maybe it shouldn't shock me so much, but I think it's very unique. So it's not just this urban center, but you guys have created a destination amongst many markets across South Florida. And so I want to talk to Kylie a little bit about this aspect of talent and not only creation, but development, retention. Flexibility is a huge driver of the co-working business and only accelerated, since COVID. And so I want to know, how is flexibility playing a role in the attractiveness of this location?
Yeah. We opened January of this year, and we announced that we'd signed this deal February of last year. And the way Flex Office normally works is you have shorter lead times because the space is built and people can move in pretty quickly. But from the second we announced this location, we had potential members calling Jordan, calling Related, calling us, wanting to sign up for their offices, wanting to have that already because there was that demand here. So the demand for flexibility here, it existed in the market, and we found a way to capture that and create a really good environment for that. But then when you look too at, people have so many options now in terms of working from home, working from office, doing some sort of hybrid, going into a traditional downtown office. So we've really been able to try and create opportunities for our members to use the space as best for them. So we have members who come here 5 days a week. We have members who have an office and they use it 3 times a week. We have members who use it 3 times a month. And that's because some of this area is transient and they want the space when they're here, but it really gives them that great touchdown spot. And it doesn't have to be used in the same way that office has been used from the sort of 9 to 5 ways of the past.
That's really cool. You guys are going to be able to learn so much about this market, having just landed here, just to see how people are using the space, coming and going, what markets they're coming from to land here.
100%.
Amazing. Very, very cool. I want to go back to Mayor James. To make this all happen, you have so many different points of communication. And communication is such an underlying factor of making this successful, making it all work and bringing it together. How does that happen? Can you talk to us a little bit about how is that for you all together?
You have to be, as the leader, as the CEO of the city, I have to be very intentional about collaboration. A lot of what we have accomplished here has been through a public-private partnership, and being open to that and looking for ways to yes. Some of the behind-the-scenes discussions that Jordan and his counterparts at Related and I and my team at the city, let's just say it's not always pretty watching the sausage being made, but what we have been able to accomplish with this each side being willing to enter into this public-private partnership helps. But that's not just with the private sector. It was very important to me when I came in 2019 to establish a collaborative attitude with the county, Palm Beach County, as well as the town of Palm Beach over the bridge. And I went to each of those, one municipality and the governmental entities, and basically extended the olive branch and said, listen, I'm the mayor now, it's a new administration, and I want to bring a new attitude toward our relationship. We should keep the lines of communication open. It doesn't mean we will always agree, but as we encounter problems that are common to our municipalities, let's talk about it. And again, it's the same type of attitude where you're trying to find a way to to get the deal done. And that may come from my background. I was a corporate lawyer before getting into politics, and that was how I was trained, is to figure out a way to get the deal done. And I brought that same attitude to being the governmental leader. So it's also building relationships, and whether it's with the private sector or representatives of the private sector, with business development groups, whether it's the DDB or the Economic Council or the Chamber, just being in the moment with them and letting them understand that I, as the CEO of the city, was willing to listen to what their concerns were, as long as they were willing to work with me on building a community. So it really is, you have to be intentional about these things. You can't just sit in your city hall office and just expect it all to happen. You got to beat the bushes and really get into some intense negotiations with many different parties, but it's important.
Now, we don't know each other too well, but I hope that there are more municipalities that can approach business of their city with the notion of collaboration and finding that, yes, that was so important what you just said. I don't take that for granted. That's incredible. What an amazing stance. So all of this being said, talent and office and infrastructure and culture doesn't happen without housing. And it doesn't happen without a city that doesn't feel safe. I would love for you to talk about that.
Well, when I campaigned, I campaigned on one of my foundational planks was that public safety is job number one for any municipality, any mayor, any commission. People need to feel safe and secure in their environment. I don't care what zip code they live in, what neighborhood they live in. And so it was important to me that the bonds between communities and law enforcement, our first responders, would be very strong. So one of the first things I did after becoming elected was to change police chiefs. And I found that I hired a police chief whose philosophy was much more similar to mine, because even in some of our poorer neighborhoods, they weren't talking about defunding the police. They were looking for more police assets in their community. And so the challenge was getting them to view law enforcement as an ally and not an adversary. And that's an attitude, and it's a change. It requires a police department that is very intentional about creating that kind of environment and strengthening community and police relationships. But it didn't stop there. Housing continues to be an issue, and I hesitate to use the term affordable housing. It's really housing that is affordable. It's essential housing. It's housing for our nurses. It's housing for our school teachers. It's housing for the men and women who wait on us in the restaurants. How do we increase the supply and the inventory of this essential housing? And it's a challenge, but it goes back to also having public-private relationships. I'm proud to say we've got a project that'll be opening up in June of this year, where we sat down with some developers. They had an idea, and the city had to put some skin in the game, and they did, but it's going to open up in June, and that's going to be over 300 units of affordable housing right next to our downtown. The investment was made in one of our poorest communities. It was the largest investment in that community in the history of the city, but it took a collaborative spirit, public-private working together, but it's going to increase the amount of units of workforce housing right next to our downtown, so people don't have to buy cars. They can hop on the trolley or they can hop on the circuit and get to downtown without having to invest in a car. But it takes that kind of proactive, forward thinking with the private sector to make these things happen. You can't just sit back and hope that it happens organically. You have to be very proactive and intentional about working on solutions to these problems. So the affordability of housing continues to be a challenge for us, as well as the mobility issue continues to be a challenge. But I tell my team, I'd much rather have the challenges and the opportunities, if you will, of a growing city than one of a city that is, shall we say, at the opposite end of the spectrum.
I love that. Incredible. I would only love to look into, if we had a crystal ball right now, and see what this city would look like in 10 years from now, but we don't have that crystal ball. So I'm going to ask instead, what are you hopeful to see? If you want to give it 5 years, if you want to give it 10 years, if you want to give it the next 35 years of hanging out here, James, calling it home, what do you hope to see from this market? It's a loaded question.
I'll jump in. Additionally, unfortunately, like, the mayor only has 4 more years, so we would only be hopeful that you'd have the next administration, next group of leaders that have the same forward-thinking mentality. So I think for us, that's critical. That spirit of collaboration is real. West Palm and what's happened here wouldn't happen without it. We've been on what I call an awareness campaign the last 3 or 4 years, and that's road shows with the mayor, with the BDB, Business Development Group, to go around the country and say, here's what's happening in West Palm. This is not the seaside beach down there. Remember, this is a real city with real goals and real aspirations and a real desire to be a world-class destination. So I think, having a great public-private relationship for the next 5 to 10 years is critical. And what that I think also means is diversification of the economy. It's been initially very leisure hospitality focused. Aerospace was being in the northern part of the county and some infrastructure and manufacturing related. Obviously, financial services now in West Palm, but healthcare and education, the hope is kind of the next frontier to continue to diversify the outreach here. I know the mayor made that a focus as part of some of the outreach he's done, particularly with the county flow. So this collaborative approach to this is not just a city anymore, it's really a region between here and Miami. I think that's changed the focus from talent acquisition to types of tenants that will now consider this an Industrious option that way too. Right? You can have an office in Miami, have a presence in West Palm, but it really is a connected region. So I think that will be the next path to growth. It can't be focused on the two industries that have been here, but something more diversified. And I think there's a lot of interest to make that happen.
I would say so. Can we talk a little bit about related in your plans for the next few years, like very tangible in what you guys have planned?
Sure. I mean, like I said, we have about 1.3 million square feet of office space. We have 8 developments planned over the next 5 years that would double that, would add significant housing as well. I think part of the discussion of the city early on, we understood the workforce, the affordable housing question, and Related still is the largest private owner of affordable housing in the country. So when we went through a lot of the rezoning efforts in the middle of the square, part of the request from the city was, look, we need to see some additional workforce housing, some housing that is affordable. So every new rental product in the square has a minimum 15% workforce housing requirement. So look, we understand the only way our projects are sustainable, the only way companies continue to grow here is to have a wide range of options on the housing front, as is on the for sale or the rental side. So that was a big push by the mayor early on when he had some very lofty goals for additional affordable housing units in the city. I think his second year to double that goal. Met it early on. So we recognize that was a focus for the city and something we wanted to.
Sure. And I think it is very telling, this market in general that you guys are building, as well as housing, so much office. You look around the country and, you're looking at a lot of office conversions, a lot of getting creative around empty office space, but not here. You guys actually led with office as your primary asset, which I found so fascinating when we chatted, before this panel. Incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we found out when we were acquiring the existing buildings in 2021 was the demand was so high there was no product on the ground. The city has talked about that for a decade. Related in 2008 built the last Class A building and then delivered 360 Rosemary in 2021, so 13 years later. And the reason they said people didn't come was there was no product. So as we saw the trends emerging from the types of companies moving here, we realized you needed to make space available. That took a little more risk, but I think, like I said, we're a long-term investor, so you can see out the window we have another office building under construction, and that But again, that was an effort that started in 2015. So the timing has worked out well, but it was to offer product on the ground ready to move in because it wasn't available.
Amazing. I can think it says a lot about this market. Kylie, would you like to look into your crystal ball finally?
Yeah. I think the energy of West Palm Beach is something that's really been amazing to see. And I think you feel it anytime you're here. So we're new here. We're doing really, really well. I think we would love to be a part of the continuation of the West Palm Beach story. We have 25 locations in New York. We have one right here. This could very much be the next economic and one of the economic capitals of the world. The way the investment is coming here has been something so impressive to see. And so we want to continue to be a part of that story and bring the community feel that we have in our office, not just to our tenants, but to the sort of larger office sphere as a whole.
Oh, got chills. I hope so too. That's the way it's going. I want to.
You gonna let me address that question?
What's that?
You gonna let me answer the
Oh,
question?
please, please answer.
I just let them go first.
Oh, I thought you were just gonna give a mic drop.
No, I'm the mayor of the city. I gotta tell you what my vision is.
Well, I don't know.
No, it's very important to me, and I kind of started out with this, that 10 or 15 years from now, yes, we will be a prosperous, growing, the economy will be diverse, but it's important that the benefits of that growth extend to all four corners of my city. West Palm Beach has had economic booms before, but inevitably there are certain neighborhoods, there are certain communities that were left out and left behind. So my crystal ball, my idea, and frankly what keeps me up at night, is to ensure that the growth that we're experiencing is inclusive. And so as we get more buildings here, I just want the benefits of that growth, whether it's through workforce development opportunities, whether it's through education opportunities, to spread to some of the least, our communities with the fewest assets. That's a politically correct way of saying our poorest communities. I want them to be uplifted by the growth that's happening. So that is what I'm very optimistic about over the next 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, and that those communities, the boys and girls who are growing up in those communities, will see opportunities in some of this growth that we're experiencing here, and will be able to have a tremendous lifestyle and opportunities for their families. That's important.
Wonderful. Just looking to have a couple of words, and I would love to ask you guys with just like one lasting word or sentence, how would you describe the current state of West Palm Beach?
Say excited. I mean, you've been here much longer. I've been here 5.5 years. I don't think that the enthusiasm for the trajectory of the city has never been greater. The types of companies come here, as the mayor mentioned, this mission of inclusionary growth is something I think he's gotten a lot of buy-in, not from just Related, but a large number of the constituencies in the community, other developers who understand. I mean, this is not just for the benefit of few, and it's a unique opportunity that the city has to take advantage of here. Then very few parts of the country today have that same level of enthusiasm because of politics or economics or whatever the factor may be. You really have we hate to say we're in a bubble here because nothing's insulated from the world, but it is a unique opportunity that you don't see in a lot of places around the country. And we're in a lot of the other markets. We don't see that same level of enthusiasm.
So one word I would use to describe West Palm Beach is magical.
I think I would say dynamic.
Ooh, I love that too. Incredible. Well, you can feel it. You can feel it. I've been here a short while and it was clear to me right away. I knew I had to come see this space and see the dynamics at play. And I really appreciate all of you for being here, for sharing, not only with us in the room, but for all the people around the country and potentially around the world who are watching, to help them understand what's happening in this market, what's to come, not just what's here now, what's to come. We gave them a little bit of a flashback of how we got here, which is so important, that historical context from where we came from, which is what makes it so exciting to be in this moment. And then looking a little bit into the future of what we can expect. These are the people that are making it happen. So we appreciate them so much. We're going to say goodbye to all of our live stream audience, and we will be able to take some questions here in person. So good night, everybody who's watching live. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Come see us.
Come see us in West Palm. The weather's beautiful.